Hello again, Entropy 666 here.
And Lucifera.
Today we are going to start on a number of different videos that we will be doing discussing a book that we find to be very important, very crucial. As a matter of fact, you could almost call this the cornerstone of what Lucy and I have been talking about. The name of the book is The Secret Book of John, the Gnostic Gospel, annotated and explained by Stevan Davies. After reading this book, we both decided that this book was so important that we should share it with all of you in its entirety. So it's going to be quite a few videos that we're going to be doing. Today we will be reading the preface and discussing it.
Let's have positive comments, a good conversation, and not smart aleck comments, please. Thank you.
This is for discussion purposes. And folks, this is all about what Gnosticism is. And if you don't like what's in this preface and in the introduction that we will be doing later, then you're not a Gnostic and you're not interested in Gnosticism. We are Gnostics. And as those of you who have strong feelings about what it is that Lucy and I have been talking about for some time now, for 2 years, both of us, separately and together. If you reverberate with what we've been witnessing to for some time, then you certainly are going to, this is going to speak to you. So let's just get into the text here, the preface of the book. Now I will be putting a link down in the description box to the Amazon site where you can buy this book. And I highly recommend that if you are at all interested in Gnosticism to read this, because this is really a primer on Gnostic beliefs. So let's get into the preface. All right. Preface. Perhaps you are one of those remarkable people who experience an overpowering realization of the divinity of existence. You suddenly know that everything is divine and that within you lies an ocean of God. Will you know this all the time and every day? No. You will crest and fall and submerge again into the mundane. The realization of divinity as a be-all and end-all, as the substance of your very self, that within which you live and move and have your being, does not dominate every day, although you wish it would. The ordinary world of aches and pains and approaching death, of trouble, temptation, sin, stress, and loss seems to rule almost all the time, and yet sometimes you can seize what you seek and see glory everywhere and know yourself to be divine. If you are one of those people, you are one with the Gnostics. You know what you truly are, and you are God, just as everyone else is. But as a Gnostic, your existence in this ordinary and difficult world puzzles you. You ask, how do I come to be here? You don't seem to belong here. You belong in a world, a realm of divinity. And it certainly seems that the divine realm is not everyday reality. But if, in full reality, everything that exists is God, why don't we always know this? Why do some people never even think it possible to be in what, in their depths, they really are? Why don't we know who we are? How did we come to forget? What holds us back from the perpetual realization of our divinity, and what traps so many people into denying that their own divinity is even conceivable. These are the Gnostic questions. The secret book of John is the Gnostics' answer. Gnostics know that God is all, and they themselves are God. They experience this knowledge, this realization, and know that everyone else could share their experience, but they are continually thrown back into the seemingly hard, material reality that tells them that they are merely flawed humans, kin to apes, doomed to die, ruled by judgmental Creator God, who often does not show a fondness for people at all. Gnostics rebel against the churches and the priest, the Bible-based pastors whose obsession with God's supposed desire to control behavior seems not to be what true religion is about. To Gnostics, true religion, elite spirituality, is a realization of the divinity of every person, an experience of ascent to the divine homeland. It is a knowledge of the way we once were as God, of the process by which God came to be so self-forgetful as to become us, mere human beings under the control of another, lesser God. Those are the lessons taught in the Gnostic Gospel, the secret book of John. Gnosticism is a religion of rebels, creative thinkers whose works were systematically destroyed by Orthodox Christianity between the 2nd and 6th century CE. Gnostics were the, quote, other to the growth of orthodoxy. They lived in the home of heresy, for they were the source of self-assertiveness against the episcopal demands of sameness. They persisted in the shadows in certain Sufi sects, in the Christian Cathar movement, and perhaps even among the Knights Templar and the Rosicrucian orders. Only recently have the old Gnostics spoken aloud again. Their speech resounds in the documents of the Nag Hammadi library buried 1,700 years ago in Upper Egypt, discovered again in 1945, and read today by spiritual seekers throughout the world. Their main document, the central myth, the theory of the origin and structure of reality, is a text called the Secret Book of John. This text we learn how God fell and became us, and how, through knowing that story, we can return to the glory and absorbed again into God. The new annotated edition of the Secret Book of John will help take up the challenge of reading the primary Gnostic myth. It discusses the principal themes of the secret book of John and explains the historical and spiritual contexts as they arise. The general reader and the spiritual seeker will come away from reading it with good insight into the fundamental ideas of the Gnostic religion. Okay, now a bit of a commentary on this. Of course, the very beginning, you get the essence of what Gnosticism is about. We don't talk about we are all gods in the plural way. We say we are all God. And the funny thing is that as a Zen Buddhist, when I came to a greater understanding of Gnosticism, the two are so similar. You see, the thing is, in Zen, you don't necessarily think of these things as a god, but as an energy. It's just a more Western concept to use the term God, in my opinion, than when you come to Zen Buddhism, which is all about, really about the mind, and that the mind is the seat of the soul.
Now, for me, I sometimes mention gods, and but in the ultimate reality, we are the many in the one, so we are God. But when I mention, individually we are gods, then, it's sort of the, some people will talk about God in three, but they're one. In this case, We are the many in one.
The explanation here in the preface, it says, so you suddenly know that everything is divine and that within you lies an ocean of God. And then in one of the descriptions that I've heard of nirvana, which is, of course, the ultimate destiny for those of us who are drawn to that path of Buddhism, is that you are a drop of water in an ocean. So it is that we are one and that we are separate, sort of like the separate parts of our one body.
To Gnostics, true religion, elite spirituality, is a realization of the divinity of every person and experience of ascent to the divine homeland. Now this line here shows you where I am coming from and what I put into my Virya group. And I talk about the spiritual elite and how we are, each one of us is divine. And that each and every one of us is headed back to our home, our divine homeland, which is within ourselves.
I know this resonates with most of you, with all of you who, are interested in what Lucy and I have been talking about for some time. Gnostics rebel against their churches and their priests, the Bible-based pastors whose obsession with God's supposed desire to control behavior seems not to be what true religion is about. And here later it goes on to say that we are told that we are mere human beings under the control of another lesser God, that we have forgotten who we are as gods. This book is absolutely the most profound way of expressing what it is that we have been talking about. It's interesting that when we come to these realizations on our own as individuals, whether it's Lucy and I or many of you who are listening to this, we come to these realizations as individuals because it's an eternal understanding. And then the beauty of this is that we find out that there is an actual religion that preaches the same thing that we already knew to be true, that we are all God. That, as it says here towards the end of the preface, in the text, we learn how God fell and became us, and how, through knowing that story, we can return to the glory and be absorbed again into God. It's so interesting that so many of us, certainly Lucifera, is so drawn to the idea of this fallen angels, this Lucifer that rebelled against this God, because this is who we essentially are. We are a fallen God that is learning to us who we are and ascending back to the Godhead, the universal mind.
This divine being that fell, also explained in the Gnostic text, is Sophia. And so Sophia is that divine spark within us. We're sort of a fractal. We're fractals, and we're coming back together, and we're going to ascend back to, quote, heaven, the spiritual realm, the divine homeland.
Well, we hope you enjoy this beginning of the discussion of this book. We are going to continue the discussion. We are going to be getting into the introduction very soon, and we will be reading the introduction in its entirety, and then we will be reading the book and the annotated remarks and the commentary by Stevan Davies. So we hope you enjoy, and be looking for more videos soon, all about this book, The Secret Book of John. This is Entropy 666 signing out.
And this is Lucifera.
We will see you again soon. Bye.